makeup on you.
Need a little powder.
No, you all need more makeup.
Yeah, sure.
Who else signed this? Carl, you signed this on the?
Are we ready off yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll stand and do the pledge, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, study session is now in session. I guess the first thing, we've already done, you've recorded who's here. So, public comment.
I've got one, I'm gonna bring this up again Wednesday. I would like to know why the insurance was not bid out, as the county code requires it to be bid out. We went through this a year or two ago, and we bid it out, and now we're going back to just, you know, doing what you want without paying attention to the county's code, I guess. The information that Booster gave you was wrong, and all of it pertained to municipalities. And a county is not a village or a city or a municipality, and it's all the county's code, which says you have to bid it out. It's not a professional service. And I believe I've asked 2 or 3, maybe 4 times this summer at this meeting if the insurance was gonna get bid out, and I always never got a yes or no. I just would like to know why it wasn't bid out. That's all I got.
Thank you, John.
Gentlemen, good morning. My name is Robert Bode. And I would like to visit with you folks this morning about the county airport. Last time I checked, Jerry Griffin's still gainfully employed by the county as the airport manager. That is the fellow that applied for the job out there that lied about 5 years of experience as an employee of the Aviator Flight School, Fort Pierce, Florida. He's also the fellow that said he was a mechanic for an airplane, and he doesn't have an AMP license, and you can't work on airplanes as a mechanic without one, or without having someone sign off on the work that you've done. So he lied about his 5 years of work experience, his employment, and what he did at that time. He also lied when he told you that he was a mechanic working for the Aviator Flight Service out of Fort Pierce, Florida. Again, you don't have an AMP license, you can't work on airplanes unless somebody signs off for you, and nobody signs off. There's 8 years worth of experience that he lied about. Rich Wilkins, the other applicant, provided documents that were accurate and have been tested and have been proven to be accurate. What an injustice to the county. Talk about your grant, the first grant, the most recent grant, not the one here that we're going to talk about next, but the first grant that was halted by the Office of the Executive Inspector General. He hauled it not because he knows me or likes me. He hauled it because Edgar County, Hanson Engineering, your airport board manager, and your county board chairman lied. There are not 35 airplanes at the Edgar County Airport. There never were. On the application, you said you were pumping fuel from a 1,000-gallon fuel tank, and that was a lie. It was from a 10,000-gallon tank. Everybody on the county board knew that because we told you that. I provided documents to this county board on the number of airplanes as being 16. That was quite a while back. That's why the project was halted. You've reapplied. You have a new project, but it's got some problems. Folks have violated the grant assurance on numerous occasions. Broke the law. You can't transfer funds from an airport fund according to the grant assurances for any other purpose. You also broke the law on 2 previous projects that required zoning. Yes, the county's going to have zoning if it's going to have an airport, And that's according to your state's attorney, Mark Isuf. When the watchdogs took the county to court for a FOIA response, they refused to provide information. Your state's attorney, Mark Isuf, said this is the law under which we're operating. You fellows need to look it up. You can't operate an airport, you can't expand an airport without knowing about zoning, because that's where it's going. I urge this county board to do the right thing. Quit playing games with people and lives. Sit down and look at the facts and act on it. You need to discharge Jerry Griffin. He doesn't belong there. He doesn't represent Edgar County well. He doesn't represent you folks very well. It's stupid to have him there. You need to get rid of him. Get somebody there that can tell the truth about planes that crash, and about deer on the runway, and about their history. Thank you for listening, gentlemen.
Thank you. We have committee reports. Mr.
We met with Signal Engineering last week, Jan and I and Andy, and we signed a contract to have the asbestos abatement done, which needs to be done before we do anything else. So we'll get that done as soon as possible. I think we got a real good bid. It was, not a bid, but a quote, $5,700. And then we went ahead and told Signal Engineering to order the boiler. It's about $12,000. So once we get the asbestos abatement done, then they will start with some of the projects. And they thought they probably could even do it in the wintertime and then let the old one run and then switch over with no problem. So it'll probably be January, we'll make a definite decision. So from that point on, it'll be a go. So.
I'm confused. So you're talking about the asbestos abatement prior to?
Yeah. Well, they got to take out the old boiler in the basement.
Mhm.
And they have to check, they said there's asbestos there, so the asbestos has to be removed, and then it has to be re-insulated, and then they go ahead with putting in the new boiler.
Okay,
I
so
mean, you
they're-
can't do anything until you take out the asbestos.
Sure. So they're gonna replace, temporary replacement for the insulation on
Right.
the old boiler?
Right. Well, not the old boiler, but the pipes that run in the boiler. There's a lot of different pipes down
Strictly on
there
the pipes,
that
the
are wrapped
asbestos
up,
issue?
and they have asbestos in the joints and so forth. So that's gonna be removed first, and then re-insulate, and then take out the old boiler and put the new one in.
Got it, okay. I guess I was envisioning the insulation on the boiler itself, not asbestos issue.
No,
it's
not the
pipes.
boiler, it's the pipes that run in the boiler.
So that part of the project will be done early?
Right,
Got it.
right.
So-
And we'll make that decision at the next meeting, which is in January, so, and there'll be a goal from that point on, so. So still under our budget of 150, we're around about 125, 130, but we wanna do some other stuff also, especially with the controls in the rooms. So,
Well, that should have follow-on
Mhm.
savings for us, right?
right. Animal shelter's running well. I checked with Andrea, he adopted out 3 or 4 dogs last week, so she says it's really going well, so.
Your cat's still there though, right?
Not 3 cats, no, 2.
Okay.
2 cats, the Siamese and the new one I got. The other one had the tail cut off, but it got adopted out, so. But she had 3 cats, which normally she doesn't keep cats.
Thank you.
Siamese I like to take home, my wife wouldn't let me, so.
I wholesale it, but they couldn't retail it.
Any questions of Dan?
When's
When's
your
been a
next,
bobcat?
Animal shelter
January
meeting?
5th
Okay.
at 12 o'clock, so.
Well,
Pardon?
We're at,
Parkland building.
I was told that the washer and dryer out there is having problems.
Mhm.
Is that getting taken care of?
Not yet. There's also a water problem that, one of the faucets that Bob is supposed to work on. I don't think it's got done yet either, so.
From my understanding, the washer or the dryer, I think the dryer, they've been waiting like a year to get it hooked up, and Bob's supposed to do that.
Mhm. There's also an outside faucet that doesn't work right, that he's supposed to get fixed too, so.
Why don't we
This, I'm just gonna have her put it out and get somebody in.
get someone else to get it done? Because my
Right.
sister said she's taking stuff home
Yeah.
to wash or dry, and their own washer or dryer on one,
Yeah.
and they've been waiting a year to get
Yeah.
something done.
So when you say hooked up, I mean, everything's there, just needs put in and hooked up, or?
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know.
She hasn't said much about it lately. I know she talked about the faucet, you have to turn it off and turn it on somewhere else, and Bob is supposed to fix that also, so. I was gonna tell her to just have, if she can't find anybody, she's called, plumbers and all that, and you can't get anybody to come because it's such a small job, so. It's like trying to get a plumber to come to your house, almost impossible anymore, so. I'll talk to her and see what she,
Jeff, were you gonna talk to Bob then and see if it is just a deal where they could hook up the dryer? Sounds like something that,
man, the
make
water.
a decision or let her know to get somebody else in there.
Get somebody else, yeah.
Right,
She says she's tried on the faucet.
well,
Yeah.
dryer too,
Either get him out there or
or do something.
call Dan and get somebody
I'll go
else.
by stuff when I get down there and talk to her about
One way or the other, it needs to be
Yeah.
done ASAP.
it. No sense taking clothes home, something on, putting your own.
No, and that screws up your own dryer,
Yeah.
because some of that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's like towels and stuff like it, dog towels and stuff
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
Sure. Hair and
Okay.
debris.
I'll go talk to her after the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Michael?
No, I don't have anything.
Carl?
Just, union, we gotta go to executive session to talk about that.
Okay.
But,
Then we have a meeting tomorrow at the dispatchers.
yes,
Is that 10 or 10:30?
tomorrow at 10 o'clock at
10.
Crackman,
Okay.
meet with,
Is it dispatchers and jailers together?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one contract,
Okay.
Michael.
Okay, that's what I thought.
and we, of course, we've got the tentative agreement on,
Road deputy.
on the road deputies, that's what we gotta talk about, executive session on that.
Thank you, Carl. Alan?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is I just want to reiterate the idea of our land use ordinances again. We talked about that a little bit beforehand, but, you know, whether or not we're gonna make some steps to go that way or not. Again, I'm not sure which is the correct way because we're a historical, agriculture-based county, but we have had a lot of industrial improvements over the last 5 years, or industrial additions, I should say. And then also brings up the idea of different types of housing. I think I brought up last month, somebody was worried about a dilapidated house that's within the county. And thank you, Jeff, for giving me the idea of the public health, because then I was able to turn it over to them. Whether we need to or not, I don't know. I mean, it's just, it's something I don't think's gonna go away, and I don't know the best first step for that either. Again, I would think before we make anything on there, a personal thing would be, and also on those subdivisions, is myself and Dan and Andy, and then, as Aaron said, ex officio members also, but I think we ought to have a couple meetings before we would react to too many things to let the public have a little bit of decision, or talking about it, not decision, because basically the public elected us to make the decisions, so that's a part of it. Also, something else that may be coming up, and we talked a little bit about that, Jeff probably getting into, the possibility of money from the state. It impacts all of us as we look for ways to try to make sure we keep our money best we can. And I guess what we can wait on is that 11 o'clock meeting today and see if that happens. Then, of course, there'll still need to be a signature. And who knows what's going to happen off of that. But like I said, there's 53 pages of stuff, and it went from everything from, as Jeff was saying, tens of millions of dollars to, I think, $10,000 for Ducks Unlimited.
$5,000 for some.
Yeah, there's one for, so I mean, it's an issue I think that is worth repeating just a little bit there. Another issue that may be coming up, and I'm not sure exactly where this will come, had a little bit of talk from it, maybe even hear a little bit more about it. In the future, we talked a little bit, is that this 1% possibility of a countywide, for lack of a better term, school tax. Douglas County over in Tuscola has had that, and what that's done is one of our districts being Shiloh, they also have some students in Douglas County, and so that's an issue that I'm sure will be brought before us. And so again, we're kind of at the mercy of listening to what other people, I guess, say, and talking to our own lawyers and things of that nature. But that's it. As far as our insurance type of stuff, thought we had that pretty well squared away. John brought up, why wasn't it rebid? The last couple of months I've been sending you guys, everybody information, talking to Bushu, talking about that. I don't know if made a mistake or not. We're looking at what's the best we thought for the county. The idea with renewal versus probably rebidding at this point is that my understanding, it also gives those companies that bid that out, if they know there's gonna be a possibility of renewal, they can build that into their bids. And I think, like, if you guys remember our renewal prices on those, less than 1%, and one thing, we're actually thousands of dollars under. So, yes.
Was there a company that complained because it wasn't bid out? That's what I was asking.
I don't know. I don't know. So.
That's why.
I can
that's the
say
reason why
there's
I
a
wanted
company
it
that
brought up.
complained to me
Pardon?
that's not willing to put their neck out on the line because they know what happens when they do.
Well, I just marked there's a company that actually complained that it wasn't bid out
Yeah.
and wanted to bid on
And
it.
it could be. I mean, I don't know.
We
I
We
just-
haven't received anything formal in that.
And that's, but that's the, you know, we talked about that for the last
Right,
2 months, at
right.
these meetings and at regular board meetings. Again, looking at hopefully ways to save that, and that's why I was very supportive a couple of years ago of making sure we did rebid it and see where we were at, to see if that, we're also finding in those areas that there's less and less companies, so maybe that's a good idea to really look at. Again, I think we were doing what we thought was right for the county from the standpoint of saving money and looking at keeping the same process going.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's an excellent question, because if it's something of competitive nature and we can save us money
Yeah.
overall.
And that's what we did when we, a couple of years ago, when we first started doing this, like, you know, let's rebid this, let's see what we have, let's go with that.
Mhm.
And, so, learned it, so that's that part. The only other thing, I was gonna ask you.
While you're looking,
The-
the
okay.
superintendent of schools in the county had a meeting about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, just before Thanksgiving. And once they report back to their boards, I think there, you know, some kind of a recommendation or some type of discussion will start with us as far as a tax issue. So, from that
That was why I was
standpoint,
wondering, what's the process?
well, it still is gonna have to go to referendum. Okay, no matter what, it's gonna have to go to referendum. And it just depends on.
Is that for all school districts, or can Shiloh, I mean, Shiloh's the one that's kind of behind it in reading the paper, but does all the school districts in Edgar County have to be on board with it and have a referendum? before
I've
they-
just read it, I'm not an attorney,
Okay,
but I do
right.
have, it looks like one district can go, but it looks like they're gonna try to do a united
I
front
see.
and go for some kind of percentage, whether it's a 0.5%, I don't know what they're talking about, because I haven't heard from them. And then that tax money would be sales tax, the state would distribute it to us, and then we distribute it out to the districts.
And that's based on the number of students that they have physically living in our county. You know, like, so where it's at, obviously with Unit
If there's
4,
a-
District 95 is pretty basic. I think Chris and me still have some kids up in Vermillion
If there's
County.
1,000 kids and they have 65% of the kids here in Paris, they get 65% of the money.
Right, I mean, so it's, you know, it's like if the kids that live in Vermillion County, they don't get that, and the kids that live in Douglas County, and I don't know now, if down south or Charleston has Coles or, I don't know.
What's my tax bill gonna reflect?
This is
No,
a
that's
sales
sales
tax.
tax.
Sales
It's a
tax.
sales tax.
In other words, when you go to the grocery store, I'm sorry,
Okay.
for example, when you buy a
Retail.
shirt at Walmart or wherever,
Buy that handsome sweater.
that handsome sweater, yeah.
Probably a good
But,
vote.
and there's other stipulations.
Yes,
And I'm glad you know of that. I just
Well,
want to throw it up that.
They
it's
keep
coming.
calling to ask me
Yeah,
what the
it-
procedure, they think,
It's
they
coming.
were hoping that we could just pass it and it wouldn't have to go to referendum, and that's not
not
gonna
my
happen.
understanding either.
Right.
By
Because
district.
the other side of that
By
is that
district.
like, sometimes on most of these, I think it's not necessarily, there's other stipulations, I don't think it can be on
Unless we're
food or
home
something
rule.
like that, or
Right,
something
right.
else, you know, there,
Food, medicine,
nothing is ever as simple as there's
Yeah.
black or there's white. So we'll hopefully find out more.
And just to clarify, I think Shiloh brought it up because they are on the receiving end of
Right.
this flow of cash, and so everybody said, well, that'd be nice to have
but
more
I know
cash.
Crispin and Paris are now talking
Yeah,
about
one
it.
of those silo board
And
members
it-
asked me about
And
it.
I think it was one of those things, their issue was the standpoint, it wasn't like an additional property tax to where
Well,
people are gonna have an X percent.
keep in mind, gentlemen, that in the near future, and this is one of the issues that we talked about out in Colorado about funding our jail. We may need to do something in that respect to get
From a county line.
from a county, and, you know, everybody, schools want money, the county wants money for a jail, the county wants money for a courthouse roof. Pretty
Remember
soon,
this, though, you can't go on a referendum, we want 1% for the schools and 0.5% for the county. It has to be a single issue. In other words, we can't split it. In other words, shall there be, however it's worded, for the schools.
but you see one
Then
of
we'd
the,
have to come back later and try to get something passed on top of that.
But Augie, on an election, whenever you're having a referendum, you know that you can have multiple referendums on that same election, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
There are,
So,
the maximum is
that-
3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
there's all kinds of limitations.
I mean, and I didn't mean to throw up a bunch of stuff.
No,
just
that's
the
fine.
no, but I
idea
just
that-
wanna keep in mind, we
I
gotta be
was gonna
careful.
bring it up if you didn't, so.
All right, I think that's it, Jeff, for me.
Derek,
Say, working on maybe meeting with Terry tomorrow, I sent an email, so that's it.
let's go over the agenda a little bit so you know what's going on. Number, obviously, 1 through 7, everybody pretty much knows. 8, that's the $7,000 for the appellate prosecutor that we use. It's an annual fee that we pay.
Wasn't it 11 last year?
No.
But it's still 7?
Still 7.
Question
Yes,
on that. I was looking at the state's attorney's final figures for the budget year,
yes.
and on the state's attorney on the appellate service this past year, nothing was spent on that. Did we not do it last year?
Yes, we did.
We
I
did,
don't
I
know
remember
why.
voting for it, but I thought
I
it was
don't know
11.
why. I'll check that out to find out why that, it may have been assigned to the wrong area.
Yeah.
I will double check
It
that.
shows $0 spent for the appellate service.
Well, maybe we didn't have any reason to.
Well, you gotta do
You-
it whether you use them or not.
It's like
We gotta write them a check?
Yeah,
Ah,
we
Right.
did it.
I didn't know that. I thought we could keep it in escrow or something.
Yeah, we didn't, for some reason it doesn't show, oh, wait a minute, it's the wrong budget. No, that's all right, no, we didn't. Okay, anyway, I wanted to explain that, so, let's see, voting centers. Augie, did you have anything you wanted to say about that?
Well, we needed to do that because we split our precincts, Sims and Paris 5. So we did have a resolution for 2015 and 2016, but we need to modify that with the new precincts.
So I have a question about that, actually. So, this is strictly for the Paris precincts, the voting centers for the Paris precincts, or is this countywide?
Well, it's county-wide that we approve the polling places and voting centers. But in there are the Sims and then the new Paris precincts.
All right. So this is probably late to the party, but I know I have had complaints from people about Hume Metcalf before about changing that up.
Right.
What would be involved in getting that? Is that ship already sailed for this year, or is there? a
Yes, it
possibility?
has.
Okay.
I
And
brought that up 6 years ago, and it still hasn't changed.
Okay. That's going to continue to be more.
Well, it's not at our discretion, is it, Augie? It
Well-
has to do with the amount of
There's
people
something
living
about
in the
signage,
precinct.
or people have to petition. Is there something about that, like getting people involved in petitioning?
no,
or-
it has to do with schools. Have elections should basically supposed to be held in the schools if at all possible, and then that's why we have those in our schools.
Mhm.
And
Specifically, it was Joni Smith talking about.
I
it. She said
understand.
she approached you about that.
there has been conversation about that, and well, it's a deeper issue that I would rather discuss more privately
Okay.
than I would out in public. Not that there's any, it just, I don't want to start throwing names around,
Mhm.
and but I want to be fair to all the school districts.
Mhm.
See, and it gets into nobody wants the elections in their school district because of the sex offenders
Right.
that come on the property. So if I move out of one school, what am I going to do with the other schools?
Sure.
And so then I've got to find suitable locations for each.
So do you have to have some sort of formal? This is the reason why we're requesting it, and as long as it's something separate from that issue, there would be reason, there was an access issue for people who aren't, that maybe disabled in some way of getting in and out.
You
That was a
certainly have,
concern.
certainly we have to consider the accessibility.
So that would give you an option to not have the floodgates open and everyone say, get this out of our schools. So, and that was one of the things she approached me on was that issue in itself and actually having a solution to the problem as well.
The sex offenders can vote at the courthouse on a week before the election.
You're exactly right.
That's what,
You're
it's a
exactly
moot
right.
point.
Yeah. But I say, that was the primary, it was just an issue with getting out of that particular school and getting around inside, and so. I'll touch base with you after this.
Okay. Next is times, dates, and locations of the meetings. You all received this in your board packet. Okay. We need to look this over between now and
And those are all
Wednesday.
matched up now between the highway department and.
Yes.
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yes.
they all look fine to me, but that doesn't mean that.
Yeah, I had, Aaron and I coordinated that. He mentioned that there are a few times where the board's gonna go 3 weeks in between study sessions, and that's really not significant for us. I didn't think so. As long as we get the one before the board meeting, and just depends upon when the board meeting falls in the next month, and when we have our study sessions, it could be 3 weeks in between. But
If the chairman thinks there's an issue, he can just
you could call me.
call a meeting. I mean, it's.
In November, you need to look at, if we had it, the second meeting is gonna be after Thanksgiving, because of the way it worked out, wasn't gonna give us enough time to lay over the budget. So Augie and his staff have looked at all the options carefully, so.
And may I also point out that we have a general election on November the 8th,
Right.
and so pushing the board meeting up is just more hectic with what's going on for the election. So we decided the easiest way, and I talked to Don, talked to Jeff, is just to push our second meeting down to the end of the month. That seemed to work out best for everybody.
Question.
Yep.
I noticed on the board meeting dates, there's 2 meetings in December.
Yes.
What's the purpose of that?
The purpose of that is by state law, the board has to reorganize and take office on the first Monday in the month of December following their election.
So it's just the
It's
organization.
just an organizational
The
meeting.
first one and the second one is the regular meeting.
That is it.
We
Yes.
swear in any new members,
All right.
and
Yep. You beat me to it. Good
I
question.
understand.
Yep.
thank you, Augie. Any other questions on those issues? Please feel free to call Augie between now and the meeting, and if you see an issue, so we can get it corrected. The next two are fairly straightforward. 100,000. Don and I looked at the available funds in IMRF in order to reduce our unfunded liability, and so we, with a little bit of cushion, can do $100,000 in payment, and that will save us approximately $7,500. With that, we will reduce this calendar year our unfunded issues of $161,000, which makes quite a dent in what we have in the funds is underfunded, so it's a good thing. Of course, we're gonna talk about the labor conference, or labor agreement in closed session, public defender, Mark asked for that. We're going to get you out a copy, which I emailed to Augie last night, on the TIPS, which is the 2 new projects for 2017, which happen to be the east expansion of the apron, and then a new, what was the other one?
Taxiway.
Yeah, a new taxiway.
Jeff, you lost me. You said, are we gonna talk about a public defender and you said, before you said tips?
Yeah, we're reappointing, or we're appointing William D. McGrath as public defender,
He's a
and the
current
judge
public defender.
and the state's.
We're not talking about that in executive session.
No.
I'm sorry, this
Okay.
is
That's what I didn't understand. Okay,
No,
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 we
no
were-
problem, I understand.
That's a formality.
So those are the issues that are coming before the board meeting. I thought we'd quick review those to make sure everybody was, not that you're not gonna have questions, but you know what's coming up, okay? I don't have anything else.
Jeff, on this Fund 100 status, it's the end of December 31st. Do we have one of those, and maybe I just, because last time we had a meeting, it wasn't at the end of November. Do we have one of those that would be just for, so we can kind of see the year end?
Yeah, I
type
can
of
get
thing?
you one.
Okay,
Yes, I'll have them for you at the meeting.
okay.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying, that way that we'll
No-
get an
no
idea
problem.
of where we're at.
Can, may I
for the
have
year.
one also?
Yeah, all of you will get
All right,
one.
all right.
How's that? I'm sorry, we just, it's been. a
No, that's
hectic
okay, I
morning,
was just,
so-
it's December 31st.
I
maybe
can tell you what it is.
Oh.
It is a negative 52,000. Okay?
And that's about, and that's, so we didn't really get in as Don was talking about, I don't.
We're roughly
place-
short
we're
about
140 or 150, whatever it was.
50,000, right.
I mean, that's still, we're still short that obviously because there's not been anything passed and no other money came in, right?
No, and we had three, basically, we had three internal budgets that did us in a little bit. So we had the court system was about 23,000. The sheriff wound up about 26,000 short, and
That's good.
the copier lease that we totally forgot a line item for was 21,000. So you can see right there, you know, so,
Okay,
You know,
that's
coulda,
what I
woulda,
mean.
shoulda, but
I guess
yes.
I was hoping that maybe we got some money and we didn't,
well,
and I hadn't
and we
heard that.
did like a
Couch
day
cushions.
later,
Yeah,
but,
not for the
you know,
November
if,
30th.
if you
right.
look at, I guess we're gonna have to look at these 2 years together with the state treating us the way they have.
We're not in anticipation yet, are we?
Oh, we never were in
No,
anticipation.
No, and I just,
And our cash flow is fine.
Okay.
that, you
Okay.
understand what I was asking.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And we're not, but I will get a copy of the final when it's done,
But I do want to,
please.
along with what you're saying, there's $0 went for debt reduction
That's correct.
and $0 was put in the building fund
That's correct.
reimbursement.
So we're gonna have to catch up on.
So we didn't put any into that building?
No, we didn't have we couldn't go into debt further to do that.
The only thing about that is that, now what is that, 2 years or 3 years that we haven't
Let's
paid
see.
into that?
I still think that once it happens, if we have to, we can always double up. We don't have to put in just 50. We can put in 60, 70, 80. And as soon as we start getting some of that money from the state.
Well, I think that's, maybe we need to, once we get some of that money, get it in there, then we.
Yeah, I guess
That's fine.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Bite the bullet,
idea-
pay it.
Well,
Right.
the idea
Well-
is like you're putting off paying and then you're gonna have all of a sudden 150,000 and you're not gonna have anything that you
And see, I
pay
just
in, even if you're
learned,
willing to put in 50,000.
not only do we have the bonds, but we have anticipation warrants. And I didn't understand that there was anticipation warrants on top of not anticipation warrants, debt.
Certificate.
Yes,
Yeah.
debt certificates. I didn't realize we had debt certificates we were paying to.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I was saying that to pay even. I don't know which was the better end, Jeff, to have the debt now or the debt later, but I think the debt, to pay a little now is a lot.
Well, Carl is right. We need to start shoving in some money, even if it's on a monthly basis
Yeah.
or something like that. But we just didn't have it
Right.
to do,
Fine.
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
All right. Do I hear a motion
Just-
for, yes, Sheriff?
I was gonna add Ben Sandy in here, the courthouse repairs is, I think they finished them up Thursday, I believe.
On the roof.
They done the
Yeah.
one flat roof, they
Yeah.
got the rubber seal on it and the gaskets. You got all the gutters around everything, so. The engineer was there, I know all of one day, maybe part of another day, and went over it. Or we just kinda cussed and discussed about some stuff 5 years down the road. But I think everything, the power vent
Yeah, we spent 6,000.
is ordered, should be here in another week or 10 days probably, and I think things on the courthouse are about.
Sheriff, is that roof gonna last us another couple of years without any major issues, you think?
Well, we went up there, days are off now, Wednesday or Thursday, one of the days was kind of drizzling. We never found any visible leaks while it was raining. So, of course, it wasn't pouring and blowing and stuff like that. So I would like to think we're good for a couple of years. The engineer did suggest that when we get that power vent in, that sometime we should get somebody to come out there, where that big pipe comes out of the courthouse, cut it off, and put a cap on it.
Yeah, we sort of talked about that before. You'll notice in the bills that we did prepay $6,000 towards the power vent. Andy requested that, and that was paid, okay? Or it's gonna be approved.
So if I can talk Andy into going out on that roof, we can do that ourselves.
It's on the north side, isn't it?
Yeah.
But your knowledge that we're gonna leave that old vent in there in place, right? Are we tearing it
That's
out?
what he's talking about.
We're going
Well,
to,
internally, I'm saying,
yeah, we're just gonna cap it. Basically, he said to cut it off and cap it for right now.
okay.
And then, I mean, eventually it probably needs taken out, but, you know, if we could've got this same project done a little sooner, they could've went in that attic and taken it out, and we could put the whole thing out and put
Put the real roof around
a
it.
dozen new slates on there and covered the whole hole.
Gotcha.
Any other questions of the sheriff? Thank you for bringing that stuff up, Sheriff.
Oh, I got a question. What's the last thing you heard from DOC? Any recent letters or threats or?
Nope, not a thing for DOC.
Okay. Does that take care of
Yep,
it?
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Alan, can you give us a motion for going into closed session,
Okay.
please?
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session and discuss, probably appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of public body, and negotiations. We don't need pending litigation, do we?
I know. I'll second that.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Does carry. We will be going into closed session,
Have a potty
folks.
break.
Yes, we have to quickly go to the potty.
Like something we're not doing?
Okay, we've come out of executive session. Is there anything else to come before the study session, gentlemen?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Alan Zuber seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're out.
Crap, didn't say much there because he wants an audience on Wednesday.